why am I so passionate about this? Because this is a reflection of my own journey. So I didn't realize all my life, and especially from my teenage years to, I guess, till now, but let's say me 5 years ago or so, I didn't know I had a superpower. And every woman has this superpower. If you're in your menstruating years, so if you're anywhere between, like sort of 10, I guess, girls are really menstruating early these days. If you're around 10 and you're anywhere up to, 40, 45, 50, this is relevant for you. And I guess for men, if you're watching this video, this might actually help you understand your wives, your girlfriends, your sisters, and your cousins. So I'm Dee. For those of you who don't know me, I am a nutritionist. I am also an ex-personal trainer, and I love the conversation around hormones so much because that's kind of what I try to use to bridge the gap between diet and exercise. So let's go back about, let's say 7 years ago. So 7 years ago, I was a person who I already knew a fair bit about hormones, having had been diagnosed with PCOS when I was around about 18, which for me was like, I was such a healthy child, followed the food pyramid, and I used to exercise like every single day, like incessantly. I was like, don't sick people get syndromes? I was very confused. So I had already done a fair bit of research around hormones. And I guess kind of what it meant and why I had PCOS. I sort of understood like the hormonal side of it. I got that it was linked to diabetes and like insulin. So I sort of understood that. I got that I had like high testosterone, high androgens. That all made sense to me. But I didn't really still know how to treat it. And currently, still the same story. So that was like, 12 years ago? It's still the same story where they just say, here, use the pill. And then if you need help getting pregnant, here's a specialist number for IVF. It's like, a part of me was sitting there in a doctor's office at that time, and I was like, I know that there's more that I could do about this. Like, I'm a person who, like, if I want to get something done, I'm going to do it. And I was like, it can't just be that simple. Like, here's a pill, just mask it. Here's a Band-Aid. And then when you want to fall pregnant, like if you want to bring a baby into the world eventually, you don't realize that like your young periods are affecting your older periods, and they're going to affect the periods and even the quality of egg, and therefore the human that you're bringing into the world. So this is really important, like really, really important. Anyway, so me about like 7 years ago, I was doing F45 incessantly. Nothing wrong with F45, but just hear me out. I was doing F45 incessantly. Like sometimes we were doing like doubles. I was eating well, although, a lot of my diet consisted of like raw vegan treats. So, I still was eating healthy and clean, and I was still cooking for myself. But I had a fair amount of like, carbs in my diet. Again, not that carbs are bad, but just again, bear with me. And I just thought, like I'm doing all the right things. Like I'm exercising really hard and I'm eating lots of food. Again, a good thing to do. If your body needs it, you got to eat a lot of food. But didn't realize that I was eating the wrong food. So like I'm actually a lot leaner now than I was then. I was very strong. Because I was doing weights all the time. So I was really strong. But I was kind of like a bit like pudgy. No, I wouldn't say pudgy. Definitely around my midsection, I felt pudgy, that's for sure. And again, I'm the leanest I've ever been around my midsection. Like semi got abs, peeps, semi got abs. And I just remember feeling like there was like an extra few kilos on my body that I couldn't understand why they weren't shifting. At the time, my periods were really irregular. Like I couldn't tell you when my next period was coming. I had no idea because they were so few and far between. So that I had something called amenorrhea, which basically meant I got really few periods. And with PCOS, you can either have really few periods or you can have really frequent periods, and they can be really heavy. You can also have like a cross between the two in terms of like heavy and light and frequent and not, hardly existent at all. There's all of these like different types. But essentially it comes back to this kind of like hormonal response. And basically your hormones are like an orchestra. Like you get the cue, there's like one part of the song and then the saxophone's like, yep, I know that this is my time now. And so it starts. And then you layer in the next thing, which is like, the trumpet. And then the trumpet, has to be playing for like 8 beats before then the piano comes in. Like literally your hormones are like an orchestra. Like it gets cues from the hormones before it to know when to start, how much to give you, where to attach, when to be recycled because it's been used up. Like all of this stuff is really like, it's like an orchestra. So everything is interdependent on everything else. So I'm not going to go through exactly what happens in your period because literally that would take so long and probably be another video. But what I do want to emphasize is you have the power to change your hormones and therefore your overall health and literally therefore your life with what's on your fork. Like literally your food is that significant and that important. And when I went on this journey, I made my own protocol. I got all this information. I was studying. I knew what I was doing. I made myself my own protocol. And by the third month, because it actually takes 3 months to regulate your periods properly, because it takes about 100 days to like make a follicle that will eventually be the one that pops off it, and that's your period, if that makes sense. It takes 100 days. It's a 100-day journey. It's like a marathon, people, not a sprint, you know how they say that? So it takes like 3 months. I had made myself this protocol, and then literally by the third month, I felt pregnant. So my friends, it really does work. I didn't use anything that you couldn't use. I didn't do anything crazy and ridiculous. If anything, I pulled back on my exercise and the intensity. I just did different type of exercise. That'll be a whole nother video because boy, oh boy, do I have a lot of information there. But I really honed in on my food. And I started to figure out that with the 4 distinct phases of our cycle, so for those of you who don't know, there is the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, the luteal phase, and then the menstrual phase. And the menstrual phase is when you're bleeding. And actually day 1 of your period is the first day that you bleed properly. So if you spot a little bit, that's still not day 1. It's when you like properly bleed on the first day, that is day 1. So your follicular phase can be really long. Mine used to be really long. Luteal phases generally, like once you ovulate, your luteal phase is just generally 2 weeks. So you can have a really, really, really long follicular phase. So if you have irregular periods and you're watching this, you can still implement everything I'm about to share with you and just know that your follicular phase is a little bit longer than the average person if you have infrequent periods like I did. And you can still use this to help you kind of trigger in your body the right hormonal phases, like the right distinct hormonal phases. So this is it. I always have my notes with me. I love my notes. So basically, these are the foundations that you need to eat in order for your cycle to help keep the rest of your body healthy. Like you can actually hack this. 2 things I want to talk about just before I do that. In fact, 3 things I want to talk about is I have a free resource for this video, and I do realize it's 8 minutes in. Oh my gosh, that is like a long time already. But I have a free resource for you. And at the end of this video, I will show you how to get that free resource. And it is literally everything that I'm saying, but I've written it down for you. So it's like a cheat sheet to hack and heal your hormones. You're welcome. So in your follicular and ovulatory phase, let's just lump those together because I'm the queen of simple and I just like things to be simple in my life. Let's just lump them together as the first half of your cycle. So this is the time where your period finishes and then you start to gain some energy. And what's actually happening at that same time is you're starting to actually increase all of your hormones again. So they have to drop in order for you to have a period. So if they're not dropping, that's why you're not having a period. P.S. I am not talking to anybody who's on the pill. Like if you're on the pill, you've literally stamped out this whole conversation. Your body doesn't have a say in what it's doing. You just bleed and bleed and bleed because you're building up so much endometrial tissue that eventually your body has to just drop it and get rid of it. So I'm not even talking to you because on the pill, unfortunately, you don't even have the option for progesterone to even enter the conversation. And we as women, we need estrogen and as equally progesterone. So like we always talk about women needing estrogen, blah, blah, blah. That's great. And yes, we do in the first half, but in the second half, we need progesterone just as much. And it's really important that we have a cycle where they both alternate because they both do very different things in our body. I'm trying not to go on a tangent because I have so much to say. Let's bring it back. So for the first half of your cycle, you want to be eating lighter foods. So you would generally find that you don't need to eat as much at this time. So you can just have light meals. in traditional Chinese medicine, this is like, if you were to look at your body as like going through four distinct seasons of like, you know, weather, then this is like the inner spring and inner summer. So that's traditional Chinese medicine, just to give you an idea. I love to bring them all in, like all the modalities is very interesting. And basically what you're trying to do here is you're really wanting to kind of optimize your gut, eat like beautiful, like probiotic foods. So like really get that gut conversation going and feeding all of your different microbes. You also want to be detoxifying at the same time, and you can eat a lot more raw foods at this time. So your body is like, it's starting to, you're starting to get your energy back. So you got a lot more energy to digest foods that are raw, because it's actually harder to digest those foods as much as they are very nutrient dense, because they're not cooked. And when you cook, you sort of, a lot of the time, and not always, reducing the nutrients because you're exposing it to heat. Sometimes cooking actually unlocks it for you. Same as like sprouting, and kind of unlocks it for you, different types of like nutrients and phytochemicals and things like that. But at this time, you can eat light, you can eat raw. Like actually think of like when you're in spring and summer, what kind of foods do you eat? So you eat lots of like fruits, lots of salads, smoothies, things like that. So that's what you want to be doing the first half of your cycle. You want to be eating foods that are also like detoxifying and really high in antioxidants. So like all your brassica vegetables, like your broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, all that sort of stuff, eat that in the first half. You need that to help your body detoxify this like really high level, or the highest level that you'll have of estrogen, because there are a lot of issues with estrogen being the more dominant hormone that people tend to have, as opposed to progesterone. Like it would be like amazing to see like high progesterone in a population. Like they probably wouldn't have the same issues as people with high estrogen. But at the moment, we've got a society where we're just not making enough progesterone. We need more of it. We are really tipped too high on the estrogen side. And so anything that can help to detoxify estrogen out of our body is really helpful. Now, if you get like really sore boobs, that is like a really key sign that you have too much estrogen, or estrogen that's not being detoxified properly. So yes, I have a shameless plug. You know what will help you? My detox tea. This is really important for you to have once a day, every day, especially through the first half of your cycle, but all through your cycle. It's really important that you're always detoxifying your hormones, but especially the first half of the cycle, because everything is so high. Sorry, it's like gross. This is like my personal one that I'm using at the moment. So that is really important. So like when you're having foods that are really high in antioxidants, you want to have like blueberries and blackberries and like anything that's really colorful, like beetroots and like, you know, things that have like a lot of color to them. They tend to be the foods that are highest in antioxidants. So like basically your berries are like top notch. That's where you want to go. And when I was saying before about the probiotic foods having things that are like fermented, like tempeh and miso, those are going to be the sort of foods that you want to have, like sauerkraut as well, to again, like help with that probiotic gut conversation. So you want to be optimizing those foods and having those in the first half of your cycle. So first half of your cycle, just remember what are the foods I would usually eat in spring and summertime, and those are the kinds of foods that you want to be having. Now we flip to the second half of the cycle. The second half of the cycle, you're going to have your luteal phase. Even though day one falls on the first day of the cycle, then you're still like the bleeding phase, I still classify that as the second half of your cycle, because in the first half, you still got the follicular and the ovulatory phases. And then the luteal phase and the menstrual phase, the first few days of bleeding, your hormones are still low. Okay, so just wanted to make that distinction in case anyone was confused. I'm not going to edit this out, and like maybe I should, because maybe I confused you earlier, but just make that clear. If you've made it to 15 minutes, you deserve this information, girl. Okay, so in your luteal phase and your menstrual phase, so this is the second half of the cycle. In the first half of the cycle, you can get away with less carbohydrates. You can get away with higher proteins and higher fats, but less overall food. And this actually makes sense in terms of like calories and macronutrients. Again, another conversation to have, but just know that it makes sense for me anyways. In your second half, you want to be having foods that are more carb heavy. The reason is that your body naturally wants carbohydrates. So don't deprive yourself of carbohydrates at this time. So you're in the second half of your cycle, your metabolism actually speeds up, which means you can have a little bit more starchy, carby foods, and make no difference at all to your weight. In fact, it will only help to improve your energy. And I know it seems counterintuitive because there are so many of us who just love to like smash ourselves for every single session in terms of like your training, and you don't feel as though like you're doing anything beneficial if you're not sweating like literally from head to toe and you feel like you're gonna fall on the floor at the end of the session. This second half of your cycle, if you want progesterone, you cannot stress your body like that. You need progesterone so badly. It helps to like make your skin dewy and it helps your immune system. It's like a beautiful hormone. Like literally, if there was like a god hormone for us females, it would be progesterone because we really need more of it. And it's like, we never see it. Yeah, I guess that's kind of like God. I'm not even religious, by the way, but yeah, God. And then what you want to be doing in that second half is you want to be like decreasing the stress. So like I said before, in spring and summer, you're eating more raw foods and they're harder to digest. It's a little bit stressful on your body to digest raw, but you can do that in the first half because you've got everything that's increasing, right? So you've got all this energy that's kind of boosting you up. In the second half, because your hormones are starting to come down now, even though you do have a peak of progesterone in your luteal phase, in your late luteal phase, everything's going down. So your energy goes down as well. So what you want to be doing is you want to actually be cooking your foods. So again, traditional Chinese medicine, this is like your inner winter, your inner fall, or your inner autumn, if you're in Australia, and your inner winter. So like we kind of tend to hibernate in those seasons, and our foods tends to change. So we have like soups and stews and like oven baked foods, and like everything's kind of like warm. And so that's really what you want to be doing at that time in your cycle. You want to be cooking foods. And the reason that you want to be cooking foods, not only is that also just giving you a variety of foods and nutrients, because when you cook foods, like I said before, sometimes it unlocks some nutrients. But you want to be doing that to decrease the stress on your physical body. It doesn't have to work as hard. Like your digestive system requires a hell of a lot of enzymes and nutrients and energy just to digest your food, just to get it from like a big molecule to a tiny little molecule that enters your cells and your tissues and that sort of thing. It actually takes up a lot of energy. So what you want to do is you want to kind of like help that process along and like just give your body a little bit of a break. If you're dieting or anything like that, this is a good time to give your body a little bit of a break. Even though you can eat more calories, like just think of that like second half. Okay, I was on a mad roll then, and then I got an alarm reminding me that I have a call really soon, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up. This is literally the only editing that's gonna happen. It was like from video 1 to right now. So in this half of the cycle, you want to be eating things that have that are really like starchy, like rice, sweet potato, buckwheat, like chickpeas and lentils, like your plant-based proteins that, you know, that are still higher in protein, like they still have some like decent level of protein in them, but they're going to help to really satisfy you. If you don't give your body carbs, if you don't give it enough energy, you are going to suffer from cravings. You know what cravings is going to do? It's going to make you buy junky crap food that your body does not need, that is not going to be helpful to you. And look, I'm not judging. If you're going to eat, like, you know, if you need to eat ultra processed food sometimes, you got to do it. Live your life. That's fine. I'm just saying, if you want to optimize your hormones and your health, you can't be doing that all the time and expect you to have a perfect hormonal month or a perfect hormonal orchestra, like I was trying to explain before. Like, it's just not going to happen. So totally up to you. You make your decisions. You do you, honey. But that is a time when if you start to experience cravings, it's a cue that you've not addressed the potential dips in energy earlier on. So I don't know if that makes sense, but let's just go with it. That's when you need this. This is my dessert tea. Again, it's a bit wonky because this is the actual packet that I'm using at the moment. This helps to curb cravings. Curb your cravings. So when you do get to that point, and hey, we all do, because stress also changes our insulin, and then when our insulin goes up and our blood sugar drops, that's when we're like, okay, really need something quick that's like sugary or a fast carb, because again, our body sees that as sugary, to help give you that quick fix of energy. But you really want to try and get that lasting energy. That lasting energy will mean that you don't have a binge that you feel guilty about. Like, if you're going to plan, and I'm going on a tangent because I'm aware there are a lot of people that actually follow me with some level of eating disorders or disordered eating. So I just try to cater to them as well, and cater to us. Like, we should have a good, healthy mindset around food and our relationship with food. But like, if you're planning to have a night out with the gals, have cheese, have wine, have crackers, whatever, go nuts, have nuts. Go nuts on that. That's fine. But it's like those times where you feel out of control and you eat to find a feeling that feels more comforting than the feeling that you're currently experiencing, like a numbing kind of mask. You don't want those times. If you can avoid those times, avoid those times. I'm not talking about soul food. Soul food, it's like, hell yes, you go do that. If you've planned that in your week and you're like, I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to eat whatever's there, and I'm not going to like be too like conscious of it because I'm having a good time, go for it. But I'm talking about those times where you feel out of control, like your life is spiraling for a minute and you're just like, whoa, what just happened? I just ate the entire pantry. Okay. I don't want those kind of situations to be a regular occurrence for you, because they lead to so many more conditions, syndromes, and diseases down the line. It's not a good way to live. And I don't want you to feel out of control needing food in that way. So it's important then that we have heavier meals, okay? So we really want to give ourselves the energy that our body is actually asking for. And don't be afraid to do that. Like, eat the meals. Try and get that good balance of proteins, carbs, and fats on your plate. Eat the cooked foods, have a lot of seafood. This is a great time to have seafood, especially if you've got period pain, because it's the prostaglandins that are causing that cramping motion. And that is really, your body is inflamed at that time. So anything you can do to reduce that inflammation, and seafood is so good for omega-3 fatty acids and loads of minerals. It's very anti-inflammatory, like especially fish. So you want to be like loading up on seafood in that second half of the cycle. Guys, again, don't worry. I know I'm rattling off a lot of like different foods here, but this is all in my cheat sheet. So if you want to hack and heal your hormones, you wait for this little cue that I'm going to give you about this cheat sheet, because I'm telling you, this is gold. Feel free to share it with your friends. I so don't mind about that. So at this time as well, because your body's been bleeding, you want to be giving it like blood building nutrients, and that includes things like iron and zinc. The greatest sources of that is red meat. If you can get a really good quality red meat to help just like give you that iron and zinc, back, then that would be great. If you're not a meat eater, you can get that in legumes, you can get that in nuts, you can get that in seeds, and other different like plant sources. But just know that at that time, you need to be changing your diet and choosing food strategically. And again, these are all in lists in my PDF that I'm going to send you guys. And that is pretty much what I wanted to tell you there. There are two other things that I just wanted to bring up. So for people who have carb cravings, not only is that an insulin issue because it's like a bit dysregulated, but actually what your body is craving is serotonin, because it actually drops when your estrogen drops. Remember, in the second half of your cycle, your body is relying on an increase in progesterone to kind of get you through to your period and past that point. So if your estrogen has dropped, which it should, then your body's also going to drop in serotonin. So your body is then going to say, hey, I really want some carbs. And if you haven't given it like the good quality, low GI, long lasting energy kind of carbs, your body will get to a point where it's like, hey, enough. I need you to give me some carbohydrates. And it's going to ask you for like pastry or donuts or something like that. And then that is going to give you that feeling of serotonin, which is great for the short term, but not great for the long term, nor is it good for your insulin, and the cycle goes on. The other thing that I was going to say is, if you're somebody who craves salt and you eat salty foods, then you're likely to have water retention and bloating, because the more sodium you have in your blood, the more water you draw to your blood to kind of balance that out. So your body doesn't want to be too high in sodium. That can be really dangerous, and really dangerous on your kidneys, which is the one that filters out all of that sort of stuff. So your body goes, okay, whoa, sodium is really high. Let's try and balance that with the amount of water that's attracted to that sodium molecule, to make sure we dilute that and it's not so high and so hard on your kidneys. So if you're somebody who's really craves salt, that's a totally different conversation as to how I could help you do that. It could be adrenal fatigue or a level of that in there. That's not really the correct term, but people understand that, so we'll just go with that. Where you've basically been through a lot of periods in life of super high stress, and that's been really chronic. And then you get to a point where your adrenal glands don't give you the right amount of cortisol, and almost give you like a sort of subpar amount of cortisol, where you don't ever really feel like you're energized and bubbly and full of vitality anymore, because you're basically like, you've just pushed them to the extreme. And so they're just like, as opposed to like, bam, bam, bam. That's what your adrenals sound like, apparently. So there's like water retention in there. There's PMS and there's pain. There's serotonin. If you work too hard, and you're really depleting your body of magnesium, which is really important in regulating your blood sugar. And again, a really important reason to have your dessert tea every single day is you might be really low in magnesium if you're getting headaches or pain in general. So there's all of these little things that all kind of add together. But if you could just eat in line with your hormones and just make sure that over the first half at least and the second half, then you're eating in this way that kind of just matches what your body needs at the time to make the hormones that are necessary for the next phase, then you're going to be like really avoiding a lot of the issues that you might normally have in the past. And maybe you'll have a baby. No, just kidding. If you don't want a baby, you won't have a baby. But hey, let's be real here. You're making yourself more fertile. So do please be careful, okay? Because I didn't realize that this was going to work so well. And then my partner was like, why are you shocked? You just made yourself so fertile. I was like, yeah, good point. So I hope that helps. Now, how do you get my free resource? All you have to do is I want you to share with me in the link below or sort of in the comments below. God, I am such a YouTube rookie. In the comments below, oh yeah, like and subscribe and all that. In the comments below, I just want you to share with me what was an aha moment for you. What was something that I said that resonated, or something that finally made sense for you, or maybe even a question that you have. So if you write that in the comments below, then what I'll do is I'll reach out, I will share with you the free resource, and happy days. You can use that for the rest of your menstruating life until you get perimenopause, and that's a whole nother conversation. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, like and subscribe and all that jazz. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to me. I am on Instagram as Celltosoul, which is CELLTOSOUL. I'm so there all the time. So if you have anything to ask me, feel free to DM me. We can talk about it. I do like to help people kind of, for free. I do. But if there's something there that I would need to do a consult with you, then I got to be really cautious about what I say. So guys, I hope you have a lovely day. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.